Welcome back to My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. I'm your host, Jessica Glover, and this is Season 3, From Resistance to Revolution. This season is about the people changing literacy from the ground up. Parents, teachers, advocates, and those of us who once trusted a system we thought we understood, until we learned the truth. Season 3 is about courage. The courage to question what we were taught, to confront what wasn't working, and to step into a movement rewriting the future of millions of children. And we begin here with the teacher's story, because everything that follows depends on understanding one thing. Our teachers were never given the training they needed to teach reading based on how the brain actually learns. Not in Kansas, not in most of the country. Parents weren't told that. Teachers weren't told why their programs were failing kids. And no one told families what that gap would cost. But now the truth is finally coming to light. And once you know better, you fight for better. This season, we're diving into the heart of that fight. Teacher voices, parent advocacy, misdiagnosis, and SPED blind spots. Rural organizing, systemic barriers, the realities and the hope of dyslexia. Because this revolution isn't just about exposing gaps. It's about teachers who are searching for real training, teachers who are trying to bridge theory to practice, teachers who want coaching and support, teachers who are learning the science of reading for the first time, and teachers who still haven't been given the chance, but deserve to be equipped to help every child read. Season 3 is the story of resistance becoming revolution, of parents finally being told the truth and learning how to advocate, of communities rising when the system says no, and of a movement refusing to look away. Season 3 starts right here. Let's begin. For decades, families in Kansas were told their children didn't qualify, didn't fit the category, didn't meet the definition. Not because dyslexia wasn't real, but because our state refused to name it. Kansas was the last state in the nation to officially recognize dyslexia as a learning disability. This episode is the story of how that finally changed. Not through one dramatic moment, but through persistence, relationships, timing, and advocates who understood how systems actually move. Today, you'll hear from Rob Egan, an advocate whose life has been shaped by disability, policy, and perseverance, and whose voice helped move dyslexia onto the map in Kansas. Rob, I'm really grateful you're here today. Before we talk about dyslexia, can you introduce yourself to our listeners, your background, your advocacy work, and what led you to disability rights?
My name is Rob Egan. I was born with cerebral palsy, born at 29 weeks gestation, and was really very small and spent a lot of time in the NICU when I was born. And so advocacy has been part of my whole life. I was fortunate enough to be able to speak and ambulate, which is not always true for people with cerebral palsy. And so I've kind of felt this responsibility to use my voice because I have one. And I started a nonprofit when I was 14. We focused on wheelchair sports at the college level and did a lot of work in wheelchair basketball and wheelchair tennis. And that sort of morphed into other things. One of my other passions is politics. And so I helped get legislation passed in the state of Arizona that created a matching grant program for the University of Arizona adaptive athletics program with money from the state that matched the private dollars they were raising so that they could increase the amount of scholarships they were giving to students with disabilities to come and compete there on their wheelchair basketball teams. Mm-hmm. We doubled their budget for their program,
Oh my goodness.
And they went from being almost non-existent to winning a national championship in 5 years.
That moment right there matters because Rob's story reminds us that advocacy isn't theoretical, it's lived. And it also explains why, when dyslexia entered his orbit, he recognized something familiar. Coming back to Kansas and Janine's moment.
I grew up here in Kansas, but I went to Arizona for school. And I never thought I would come back to Kansas, but COVID had other ideas and decided I was going to come home, change my life like it did everybody else's, right? Mm-hmm. And then I wound up teaching, which I also didn't plan to do.
Yeah.
But I had an opportunity that fell into my lap. And I had to figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to advocate during and after COVID, because of the way that the landscape changed. Mm-hmm. And I knew that it wasn't going to be the same as it was before the pandemic. I think people changed their perspectives on time and volunteerism, and a lot of folks that we worked with kind of reclaimed their time, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I was teaching. We were in a professional development workshop, and Janine was invited to come and present to us on teaching students with dyslexia. Okay. And things to look for that might give us some clues and how to help a little bit. Okay. As much as you could cover in an hour-long workshop, right? And she had us do some very challenging exercises, where we're looking at the mirror and trying to trace the shapes on the paper. I did not do very well. But at the end of that session, Janine was talking about how she had gone to the legislature for something like 2 decades and tried to get dyslexia recognized as a learning disability and had not been successful. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. I can help here.
That moment, wait, Kansas hasn't recognized dyslexia yet, is where this story turns. Because Rob didn't just feel surprised, he saw an opening. I can help here, and the policy connection.
And so I went up to her after the meeting and told her that I could help her. And it turned out that PFLC was launching a public policy committee. Dana Hensley was chairing it, and Dana is a friend and mentor to me. And so that just became a natural connection for that work to start.
Wow. So just these connections just all of a sudden started coming together, and they were passions that intersected.
Yeah.
That's so neat. Okay, so then tell me about, you went up to Janine and you were like, you need me to help with this. And then what happened? Where did you go from there, and how did it work out?
She kind of looked at me aghast, like, I do? And I told her about myself and my background, and she said to me, do you know Dana Hensley? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, well, she's chairing our new public policy task force, and you need to be part of this.
Wow.
And so Janine, like that afternoon, called Dana. And by that evening, Dana had called me. And so it started. It was great. I felt, when we came to the first meeting, I felt like I was the odd man out in a brain trust.
Okay.
It's all of these people that I spent a good part of my life looking up to.
Wow.
Or people in those circles.
Yeah.
That I didn't know, but I knew of them. And then there was me, and I'm like, I'm not sure I belong here.
Yeah.
But
you had something they needed.
Yeah.
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 This is where listeners need to understand something critical. Change doesn't always come from the loudest voice. Sometimes it comes from the right voice in the right room. Topeka, the commission, and the diagnosis problem.
And then you went to Topeka?
Well, yes. I asked the Kansas Commission on Disability Concerns to invite Janine to present at a meeting, and she did.
And you had clout there because you'd already had experience pushing for people with disabilities to have rights in certain, things that you'd done before.
I was chair of the commission then. I should note that me speaking is in my personal capacity and not affiliated with the commission. I asked for Janine to be able to come and present, I said, hey, this is just something we need to know about.
Yeah.
And so she did. And what was mind-boggling to so many of the commissioners was, well, wait a minute. Under the previous law, physicians were supposed to diagnose children with dyslexia. And physicians on the commission said, we have no training in that. We don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
What do you mean the law says it's our responsibility? We're never taught how to do that. Mm-hmm. And so Janine sent a blueprint to me of legislation that they'd had introduced a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I started reaching out to some legislators.
Okay.
And some other folks that were advocating with Janine did also, separate from my conversations. The proposal as a standalone did not go well.
Let that sink in. The law said, do it. The system had never taught anyone how. How the bill actually passed.
I think people don't really understand that the Kansas legislature is not full-time. Their session is 90 days. Mm-hmm. And so they have a whole lot to do and not a whole lot of time to do it. Mm-hmm. And so there are a number of bills that get introduced that go nowhere. Probably a quarter to a third of the bills that they hear are the ones that get passed and advanced and move on.
Wow.
The rest of them don't.
Okay.
But there's a process if you get the timing right, where if you can get through the House one year, then it's possible for you to get through the Senate the next year, or vice versa, if you start the cycle at the right time.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, let's try to get there, because I don't think we're going to get all the way from 0 to 60 in this one session. Not that anybody thinks that it's a bad idea necessarily, but there's so much learning and so much work for us to do that I don't think it's going to all come together this session. And I would regularly tell Dana Hensley, well, Dana, the proposal is not really alive, but it's not dead yet either. And it ended up at the kind of the last minute getting introduced by Molly Baumgartner, who was a state senator at the time from Lewisburg.
Okay.
As an amendment to another bill
okay.
that they had about changing some terminologies in disability law. And so she attached that as an amendment to that bill, and it got passed. I was about as surprised as anybody when that happened. I was excited that the language had gotten added.
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh, we went from not expecting very much to now it's done.
And just like that, Kansas went from not recognizing dyslexia at all to officially naming it. Recognition is not the end.
I think for me, as an advocate and as someone with a disability, recognition is not the end, it's the beginning.
Yeah.
I think now we can get help. We can move forward. Our efforts for our children, for other children who have dyslexia, are not in vain. They do matter. And I think for a long time, any discussion about legislation surrounding dyslexia was getting caught up in special education fights. I think what made this particular effort successful, beyond an incredible team of advocates that were coming at it from every angle, was the fact that we went about the disability route. We didn't go through the education route necessarily. And so we kind of avoided that fight that I think we had fallen into before.
Okay.
Nobody has said to me that that's what happened, but that's just kind of what I've drawn from it.
Well, it was kind of wise, because it's like, why beat the dead horse when you can have an opportunity to come from a different angle, which is, it works.
I will tell you, I think that Janine gives me too much credit in that effort. I think there were many, many, many people involved that deserve as much, if not more credit than I do. But I think
it's like a relay race, though, right? The person at the end is the one who runs through the ribbon. But there's the team working together, and you got to be part of that.
This is the heartbeat of this episode. Naming dyslexia didn't solve everything, but it made help possible. Implementation realities and the blueprint.
The implementation of the law has not been perfect because it says that schools and school psychologists should diagnose students. Because it was passed somewhat suddenly, schools didn't really know how to adjust, I don't think, in the time that they needed to adjust. And they're still adjusting. The reality is that dealing with the diagnoses and the services that a student is getting in school for dyslexia is only one part of the problem. And the other part of the problem is addressed, or trying to be addressed, by the Blueprint for Literacy, which hopefully will implement change in terms of how teachers are being taught to teach students with dyslexia.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole other can of worms, a whole other beast at the college level.
Yes.
I firmly believe that every teacher wants the best for their students. But I think most of the time, so many of these teachers did not know what to do for students with dyslexia that was effective because they weren't taught it themselves.
Yeah.
And so, if your district is given a curriculum to work with, and that curriculum doesn't work for a student, particularly a student with dyslexia, there's little that you can do, because it's not like there's tons of money laying around for you to go purchase supplementary resources.
Yeah.
Or get training. And everybody has processes for getting new curriculum approved, and that's a bureaucratic process everywhere. And there are good and legitimate reasons for that. But it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And it takes time. And the challenging part about that is students that are in the gap, right? While we're all still adjusting, there are students that aren't being served the way they need to be.
And this is where policy meets people, where laws meet classrooms, where timing meets children. What comes next?
I think part of it is I don't know what this looks like. I don't know if it's a legislative solution really at all. But part of this is an affordability issue for people, because while the schools and teachers are being trained in how best to serve students with dyslexia, there are still gaps that need to be filled. But if you are getting specialized literacy instruction like PFLC does, like the centers do in Emporia and Pittsburgh, that's very expensive.
Yeah.
And there are a number of families out there that need help that don't have those resources.
Yeah.
I don't know what bridging the resource gap looks like.
Yeah.
But I think that is next, to try to level the playing field and get everybody on the same base, so that then when the schools and the teachers are fully trained with their endorsements by, I think it's 2030 they have to do that.
2028.
When they're fully trained and certified and all of that, that's what we want for our kids, right? We don't want them to be separated from everybody else. We want them to thrive with their classmates in a learning environment that is best for them.
This isn't about separating kids. It's about equipping them so they can belong fully. Hope and the Kansas spirit.
Look, nobody thinks that a more literate population is a bad idea. People have different ideas about proposals that the state should enact versus localities and school boards and all those other things. And those are debates for another day. But it is important to understand that everybody is doing what they think is best for kids. And when we come together and focus on that, there is a lot that we can change knowing that everybody is putting kids' best interests at heart.
Yeah.
I think what gives me hope is seeing kids start to read. Even if it's, in the backseat of the car and they're reading a traffic sign.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And I think, you are never too old to learn something new, to expand your vocabulary. It doesn't matter if you're in kindergarten or in graduate school or beyond. And I think the thing that is most hopeful to me is that we Kansans are stubborn, right? We are. But our state motto is to the stars through difficulty.
It's a good reminder.
We have an embedded desire to persevere. And I think we've got to remember that as we continue to advocate for all Kansas children to be able to read. We have an embedded spirit of perseverance. We can do it. And the fight is worth it.
Kansas acknowledged dyslexia late, but acknowledgement matters because once something is named, it can no longer be ignored. And as Rob reminds us, recognition isn't the finish line. It's the starting gate.
At Phillips Fundamental Learning Center, we meet a lot of families who say, something just feels off, but I don't know what it is. So if you're wondering about your child's literacy development, you're not alone. Here are some signs that might point to early dyslexia or neurodivergence. Does your child mix up sounds like saying aminal for animal? Struggle with fine motor skills like using crayons or a fork? Confuse directions like up and down, left and right? Have trouble following multi-step instructions? Struggles with rhythm, skipping or reciting songs? Gets frequent ear infections? Writes their name but can't identify the letters? Well, if 6 or more of these sound familiar, your child may be at risk for dyslexia. And that's exactly why we're here. I'm one of the assessors at Phillips, and when you come in, you'll be met with care, not judgment. We'll guide you through a gentle, developmentally appropriate assessment, and together, we'll uncover what's really going on. After the assessment, we create a personalized path forward, tailored to your child's unique needs. That may include free trainings just for parents, a look at our specialized school, a list of trusted, trained literacy specialists, or even professional development for your child's current teacher. But you shouldn't have to figure this out alone. Let's take the next step together. Call 316-684-7323 or visit funlearn.org today to schedule your child's assessment. We're here when you're ready.
Before we close, I want to speak directly to you wherever you're listening from. If you're a parent, stay informed. Understand what dyslexia recognition actually means in your child's context, and don't be afraid to seek support grounded in structured literacy. If you're a teacher, connect your classroom practice to what Kansas now recognizes. Dyslexia isn't about effort, it's about instruction, and evidence matters. And if you're an advocate or policymaker, share this episode with someone just beginning their advocacy journey. Recognition is only the first step. Follow-through is where real change happens. This is Season 3 of My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. Subscribe to continue the conversation. Next time on My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. What happens after the law exists, but the system still says no? We follow families and advocates who keep pushing when recognition isn't enough and implementation lags behind. That's next in Season 3, Episode 5, When the System Says No, Grassroots Organizing. Thanks for listening to My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. If today's episode resonated with you, if you saw yourself, your child, or your classroom in these stories, you're not alone. We believe every child can learn to read, and every parent and teacher deserves the knowledge to help them. I invite you to take action today by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode, rate and review to help others find this series, and tell us about your story and discover how the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center is changing lives through literacy at funlearn.org/podcast. That's funlearn.org/podcast. And share this show with a friend, teacher, or fellow parent who needs to hear it. All resources, source credits, and tools mentioned in this episode can be found in the show notes. Remember, together we can rewrite the story one reader at a time right here in the Heartland.